Hey guys, I'm doing well today. In today's video, we're talking the Hurricanes versus the Crusaders in round 7 of Super Rugby Aotearoa. So this will be a very interesting game, obviously, with both sides coming back from a loss, with the Crusaders actually losing at home last week against the Highlanders. That was a huge upset within the competition and obviously opens the gap for other teams. And then, the Hurricanes also lost last week against the Blues. So that was another one. It was a hard one to take, really, because they needed that win to actually propel up the rankings. But more or less, both sides will definitely want to win this game for sure. Both sides will definitely just want to get back into winning form, to say the least. The Hurricanes will be playing at home, so they will have home advantage within this game, obviously, because they're playing within Wellington. But if you look at previous results within this fixture, the Crusaders have really just dominated, and it's more or less where they've done very well away against the Hurricanes within recent years. So I wouldn't say home advantage really has that say within this game for sure. Anyway, I'll go over the lineups now, obviously, with the lineups right here. I'll just tell you what I think about them, and I'll give you my prediction right afterwards. So anyway, with the props, the props is a very interesting position, obviously, with both sides, because they've made, both sides have made changes to those prop positions, with Numia actually coming on for Fraser Armstrong, and then you have the likes of Aotearoa actually coming on for Aotearoa. So that'll be an interesting battle between those two, because obviously those two, I wouldn't say they're just not the starting props within those positions. So, in my opinion, I'd say that's a key battle from this game for sure. But obviously, you do have the likes of Tyrell Lomax obviously partnering Numia, and then you have the likes of Joe Moody, who's obviously partnering Aotearoa. So it should be an interesting battle. I'd say I'd probably edge it towards. In my opinion, I actually edge it towards the Hurricanes, just because I like Lomax a lot. And I think Numia is just a young prospect, a young prop actually coming up the ranks. So I think I'd probably edge it to them more within that section. If I have to look at the hookers, within both sides, it's pretty good actually. Obviously, you have the likes of Dan Coles for the Hurricanes, and you have the likes of Cody Taylor for the Crusaders. Obviously 2 all-black hookers, so it's going to be a good competition, I'd say, within that area. But I'd probably edge it towards Cody Taylor still, just because, based on Super Rugby form this season, he's just been brilliant so far for the Crusaders, and probably the player, I'd say, so far of the season, you could say, within this competition. So I'm going to obviously edge it towards Cody Taylor within that. But I wouldn't be surprised if Dan Coles has a good game, because he has that quality about him where he's just able to find spaces within the defense, as well as he's pretty good with his lineouts as well. Anyway, moving on to the locks. The locks is an interesting one, obviously, with the Hurricanes. You do have the likes of James Blackwell at that 4 position, but Walker Lowe has actually come in now in replace of Scott Scrapton. So that should be an interesting pairing there. We'll see how those two do actually, and I think that's probably their best pairing in my opinion. But we'll see how that goes. But obviously they will be facing the likes of Scott Barrett, who is the captain, of course, for the Crusaders, and his partner in crime will obviously be Sam Whitelock. So it's going to be an interesting one to see who actually wins that battle. I'm going to obviously tip it towards the Crusaders. I just think they have the perfect balance of one experienced dog with Whitelock, and then one, you could say, up and coming, but he's probably made a name for himself already with Barrett. So I'd probably edge towards Crusaders with that locking position for sure. Anyway, moving on to the loose forwards. The loose forwards is a very interesting one, obviously, with both sides. When you do look at the Hurricanes, you do have the likes of Reed Princeps at 6, and then you do have Artis Sevilla at 7. So it's an interesting switch, obviously, there, with Flanders obviously playing that 8 spot. But Sevilla is actually replacing Duplessis Karifi. And in my opinion, actually, that's probably the right decision, because Duplessis Karifi, he just hasn't been in the game as often as he wanted him to, particularly within that breakdown within the last 2 games. So I can see why they want to switch them out. And obviously, Artis Sevilla is he's a brilliant player, and obviously he's the captain for the Hurricanes, so he should do pretty well within that breakdown for sure. But they will be facing the likes of Havili, as well as Havili at that 7 spot, as well as Douglas actually, who's at that 6 spot, which is kind of interesting to see, because Douglas I don't think has really played at 6 in my opinion within previous games. I think he's really only played 8 and 7, but it should be interesting to see how Douglas does there. And obviously you do have the likes of Cullen Grace at that 8 spot, so it should be good to see how he does. He's obviously an up-and-coming loose forward, and he has the potential of being within that all-black call-up space, so we'll see how he does within this game. And if he does has another good game, then he's in the conversation for sure. If I had to edge towards someone, I'd probably edge towards the Hurricanes from that loose forward positions. I just think they have better loose forwards overall, and Artis Sevilla just brings the whole package, you could say. And it should be just an interesting contest to see who's better within that breakdown for sure. But anyway, moving on to the backs. So the backs is a very interesting one, obviously, with the Hurricanes and the Crusaders. I mean, with the Hurricanes combo, you do have the likes of, Luke Campbell, which he's a decent scrum half. I won't say he's the best one, but he's a decent scrum half to have. And then you also have Ruben Love, who's obviously up and coming fly half, and yeah, he looks very good. If I say so in my list. I mean, he's just one of those who I'd say he's done pretty well from the Minor 10 Cup, and obviously he's transitioned into Super Rugby. But we'll see how that transition does. I mean, I think he still needs a bit more time, but we'll see how he does up in this game. I mean, they're going against the likes of, Bryn Hall and then Richie Mwanga. I mean, that's going to be a tough competition, you could say, at the least, for that 9-10 combination for the Hurricanes. So for that reason, I'm going to give it straight away to the Crusaders. I just think they'll be too dominant in those areas. But anyway, moving on to the centres. The centres are a very interesting one, obviously, with the Hurricanes. They do have the likes of Lea Mape, but then they've also they've actually gone with Peter Munga-Jensen instead of Billy Proctor, which is, in my opinion, I think was probably their best combination, Lea Mape and Jensen. So I think that'll be a good combination within this game, and hopefully that should work out. I mean, they will be facing the likes of David Havili as well as Goodhue, so yeah, what can you say? I mean, that's a pretty good combination to have. I mean, obviously with Goodhue being, essentially an All Black starter within that centre spot, and then Havili transitioning from that 15 to 12, and he's done pretty well within that position. So I normally would actually give it to the Hurricanes, to the Crusaders, but I'm actually going to give it to the Hurricanes just because I think Lea Mape just brings more of a threat within that centre spot, and I just think his combination with Peter Munga-Jensen, it just feels there's more chemistry, I'd say, within that position than Havili and Goodhue. But we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But anyway, with the wingers is a very interesting one, obviously, with the Hurricanes. You do have the likes of Wes Goosen, who's actually playing at that 11 spot, and then you do have the likes of, obviously, Julian Sevilla at that 14. So it should be interesting to see how that goes, because obviously both are a good set of wingers, but it's more or less where they have different qualities. That's probably the main reason why I kind of like that one, because they both bring different sets of skills, you could say, to the game. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting combination they've gone there with those two winners, but they will be facing the likes of George Bridge as well as Sevu Reese. And yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to choose the Crusaders within those winners spots. I mean, they're just ridiculously good, and it's one of those which both of them have a lot of have a lot more All Black experience. Not saying Julian Sevilla has none, because he has probably the most All Black experience, but it's just one of those which I just think they have a better combination with those two winners than what the Hurricanes do. But yeah, anyway, with the last position, obviously with that 15 spot, I mean, it's going to be probably the key battle within the game, in my opinion, with Will Jordan at 15 for the Crusaders, and then obviously Jody Barrett for the Hurricanes. If I had to say who would actually win it, who would I even select? I mean, it's one of those which normally I would have said Jody Barrett, just because he brings a lot of he brings kicking quality, as well as he brings a lot to the game. But I just Will Jordan, he's just the next up and coming 15 in my opinion. So for that case, I'm actually gonna go with Will Jordan. But it's a very tight competition, obviously, with both of them being All Black caliber 15. So we'll see how that goes. But other than that, that's kind of with the lineups. I'm about to say who actually win this game. I want to say the Hurricanes will pull an upset, but I just don't see it happening. So I'm going to probably edge towards the Crusaders, to be frank. So yeah, I'm going to say the Crusaders will win this game by at least 5 points. So I'll say they'll win this game, I'll say 27 points to 22. Yeah, 27 points to 22 is my final prediction for the game, and that's to the Crusaders. So I just hope you guys enjoyed the video. Definitely like, comment, subscribe. It's great to see you guys liking the content recently. But yeah, definitely click that subscribe button. Yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon.